Welcome back to SleeplessRonin Plays. Today, we're going to be covering another one of those wonderful, controversial, I guess, rating tiers I'm going to do for battle mechs. This time, I'm going to be pulling the mechs from the TRO3055, the old original book, not the newer upgrade, just the old original book. And I'm going to be covering the 38 mechs of the Inner Sphere. My copy. Ancient, antique, old. The cover on it for some reason. You gotta love a technical readout that on the very first page of text, it gets something wrong. It says there are 37 Inner Sphere battle mechs in here. If you count the number of mechs, like I've done, there are 38. That is a stellar, awesome, phenomenal way to begin this whole thing. But that being said, let's just jump right in. Oh, before we get any further, I should say there are going to be two weapons that appear in here that pretty much their inclusions are going to be me downrating a mech. They are just truly amazingly terrible weapons that I don't even understand why they're in the game. They're just that bad. We'll get to them. We'll get to them. Don't worry, we're going to get to them pretty fast. So let's start. Our very first mech up is going to be the ALM-70 Fireball. Once again, I'm only going to be covering just the mechs in the book. Only the variants talked about in the book. Nothing else. None of the other variants. None of the other stuff like that. Just the ones presented. So in this case, we have a little light 20-tonner with acceptable armor, same level as armor as a Stinger. Much faster than Stinger, moving in 11-17. But it has a truly awful collection of weapons: a Streak SRM-2 and a machine gun. I mean, for the machine gun on there, since it has a full ton of ammo, you could have put in a medium laser. That'd be better. The Streak 2, for it and its ammo, that's 2.5 tons of weaponry right there. You could have put in something better. Anything. Or drop out the machine gun and the ammo for a second Streak 2 launcher, and you actually do more damage than the machine gun does. Sure, you take away the anti-infantry ability, but so make a different version that's just machine guns. This mech is kind of awful. So I'm going to put it in crap. It's a great start, isn't it? I just do not like it. It feels less effective than a Stinger somehow, although faster. It's ugh. Next up, the DRT-3S Dart. This should have been a good mech. It's 25 tons, moving at 914, so again, very speedy. With less armor than a Stinger. Okay, that's a problem. Because it doesn't have an XL engine. An XL engine would have given this thing 5 more tons. I mean, it doesn't have ferrofibrous either, and it doesn't even have Indosteel. This thing is lacking advanced tech for its structural stuff, which means it's largely sacrificing armor and weaponry to go as fast as it does, and that's just bleh. And then the worst part is it mounts 3 truly terrible guns in the game. It has 3 small pulse lasers, which are only better than a medium laser for the same weight at 1 hex range. Now hear me out. A small pulse laser has a range of 1, 2, 3. Yay. That means at range 1 hex, it has a -2 to hit. At 2 hexes, it has a +2, -2, so a 0 to hit. And at 3 hexes, it has a +2 to hit overall. Now think about a medium laser that weighs exactly the same. A medium laser has a 3, 6, 9 range bracket. That means at 1 hex, it has a +0 to hit. At 2 hexes, it has a +0 to hit still. So it's just as good as a small pulse laser at 2 hexes. And at 3 hexes, it's immediately better than a small pulse laser because it has a +0 to hit instead of a +2. Then it actually has, 6 more hexes it can fire at. The small pulse laser is only better than a medium laser in the Inner Sphere at 1 hex range. It has anti-infantry capabilities, but again, I honestly don't care because they are terrible, terrible weapons. If they weighed half a ton, they might be worth it, but at weighing a full ton as equivalent to a medium laser, they are just garbage guns. Terrible design. Terrible design. So where does this mech fall? Once again, we're starting off Another crap. I mean, it's a sad set of lights we get in the beginning of this book. Then we come to the Tarantula, the ZPH-1A. They do some really weird letters on these things in this book, which I just can't figure out. This thing moves 8, 12, 8. That's spider levels, which makes sense because it's a tarantula. It's a spider also, you know, just only with 4 legs instead of 2. It has an XL engine. It has 72 points of armor, making it better than the other prior mechs we've looked at. And it carries 2 medium lasers and an SRM-2 streak. Okay, that's at least weapons that all work together. They can fight well. It has double heat sinks, so that's a positive, meaning it can jump and actually fire all of these weapons without worrying. Honestly, this is the best mech we've found so far. I don't think it's terrible. I think this actually probably should qualify as an awesome mech. I hate the model, because the model was one of the worst spindly, tiny things to build ever. I think I have a broken one lying around somewhere. I haven't gone back to repair it or whatever, because it's like, it's such a pain in the butt. I've tried pinning it and it still didn't hold together, so yay. Maybe they'll redo it in plastic. Hey, Catalyst, redo this one in plastic, please. Next, the BHK-305 Battlehawk. Okay, it's a 30-ton machine, moving 585 with an XL engine. Okay, it could go faster. It's a bit slow. But it has almost 100 points of armor, so it's durable. And it carries a pretty solid load of weapons. 3 medium pulse lasers, a Streak SRM-2 rack, and AMS. We're seeing a lot of Streak SRM-2s. They're very popular. They're also the only Streak systems available in this time period for the Inner Sphere, which is kind of sad. But it makes them essentially... I mean, they're better than an SRM-2, and they're right about the same range. They're slightly worse than an SRM-4, just a tiny touch, but like, I can understand saving the half a ton to get that instead of an SRM-4, so, you know, they're actually an okay weapon. They're not great by any stretch of the matter, but they're not truly terrible. And, you know, this mech is not bad. It's got 11 double heat sinks. I don't honestly think it probably needed that many. Well, those medium pulse lasers and jumping and the streak rack, I guess that 11 is not terrible. And they are doubles, so that's quality. You know, I'm going to put this mech in... the speed is what's killing me. So I'm going to put this in banal. It's really only effective at 6 hexes in range, and with its speed, that does kind of hinder it some. Still, I also like the way it looks. It's not a bad model. It could be better, it could be worse, but hey, you know what? It's not bad for this book. Next up, the HMR-3M Hammer. Another 30-ton machine. It's got a 580 movement profile, but no XL engine this time, so we're going to definitely spend more on engine tonnage. Slightly less armor than the Battlehawk, but not by a lot. I mean, we're talking, I think the Battlehawk has ferrofibrous, and this thing does not. So, I mean, that's where the difference is. It's just a few points in difference. The weird thing about this thing is it carries 2 LRM-5 racks with an Artemis on each of them. And I was thinking in my head, okay, an LRM-10 with 1 Artemis weighs exactly the same as 2 LRM-5s, each with an Artemis. This means there's a slight chance of getting a little bit more damage sprinkling in, so I can actually see the advantage of this over an LRM-10 with Artemis. And having 3 of them is actually pretty much the equivalent to having an LRM-15 with an Artemis. So, other than the fact that they're tiny racks, I actually don't think it's bad. I wish I could say it's bad, but I don't think it is. And it backs it up with 3 of the most staple weapons in the game, medium lasers. So it's got a pretty good loadout. It's slow, but it has the LRMs. So, you know, it's not terrible. I mean, it's meant to match up with a mech that comes in later on called the Anvil, which is a terrible pun, hammer and anvil. And I honestly don't think they match up that well. I think that just someone wanted to write that in the book. So, yay! This makes a better light fire support mech to go on with archers or some of the other LRM boats you're going to see later on in the book. Because it has the point defense weapons of the medium lasers, and it has the LRMs. So that makes it better that way. I'm going to rank this sucker in the awesome category. I think it's good enough. I should put it in banal, but I'm going to be very nice to it this time. Next up, we have the HM1 Hitman. I always liked this model back in the day. I really did. It was a pretty cool looking model. Kind of looked like a ninja. And this is a good mech in many ways. It has a 210 XL engine, giving it a 711 speed profile, but then they combine that with mask so it can get up to 14. It has Guardian ECM and a Beagle Active Probe, so we got good scout equipment on it. It has an LRM-5 with an Artemis 4 again. Okay, another one of those. And once more, 3 more medium lasers. Okay, I like that. I like that one. Oh, and it has a tag system, which is also useful. This is another one of those fun ones, though in the original book, it has a big mistake. It lists the mask as being in both the right leg and the left leg. In the actual book, it's just in the right leg because the mask has to be one system that's stuck together. You don't get to separate it out and like spread it all over the mech. I don't understand. It's a little bit lighter in armor than the Hammer, but I like this mech. I really do. This is a speedy little scout with some weapons on it. It's a good mech. So, I'm actually going to put it as our very first really amazing mech. It's our Sublime mech. It's a fantastic scout, and it can fight. That's doing its job. That is what it needs to be doing. Next up, we come to the JAKL 1532 Jackal. My God, they are driving me nuts with some of these numbers on them. I mean, they're just getting weird. This is a mech that makes me very sad. It could have potentially been a worthwhile mech, except for one fundamental, glaring, terrible, awful flaw. It has 11 single heat sinks, and it mounts an Inner Sphere ERPPC. Yep. I honestly don't think I need to say anything more. This is a dreadful design. That's just terrible. You can't even fire your main gun without generating 4 points of heat. Why? Why would you design that? That is just mind-bogglingly stupid. I'm not saying it. This is a stupid design. I'm done with it. That's it. We're done. That was fast, wasn't it? Okay. Next up is actually a mech I do like. And this one almost made it in the Catalyst Kickstarter, and then they took it out, and I was so sad. Because they had the potential to release a pack of 4 mechs, all with axes. They could have done this mech, the SCB-9A Scarabus, the Hatchetman, the Axeman, and the Berserker. And would that have not been the best pack they could have released? But they didn't. Instead, they tossed those out. They tossed out the Scarabus and the Berserker. That makes me sad. Hopefully, though, they'll come out with some more packs after all the ones from the Kickstarter are done. Maybe another Kickstarter. I don't care. More packs, please. We need more of these plastic mechs. They're wonderful. Okay, let's take a look at this Scarabus. It's a 30-ton light mech again, moving 10-15. This thing is fast. Has an XL engine, of course, because otherwise it'd have nothing else but an engine in this thing. So it has to have an XL. It has a hatchet. It has an ECM. It also mounts 2 mediums, 2 smalls, and a tag. Its only downside, and this actually isn't a downside for it, because I'm doing the math in my head, all of a sudden I just realized it's not a downside. It has 10 single heat sinks, but it can only generate 10 points of heat, even when running. That means it's fine. Singles are fine in a mech like this. Doubles wouldn't hurt it at all. They could, help it against flamers and inferno rounds. But singles work in this mech, unlike the prior one, in which they're a curse. This mech is one of my favorite lights because it just goes out and chops things to bits, and it has good weaponry. And smartly, all of the lasers are not in the hatchet arm, which is one of the problems we've seen with things like the Axeman and the Hatchetman, is they put a laser in the arm with the weapon. This is the book where they finally learn hatchet arm is separate. Good. I love this mech. I think this one is going to go in the Sublimes also. 2 lights in the Sublime category. That's fun. Now we get to another mech that depresses me in some ways because I wish this was good. And it does have a purpose. This mech is a brilliant sniper. You just have to make sure that's all it is doing is being a sniper. It can't allow anything else near it, so you need to have some support around it. I'm talking about the BZK F3 Hollander. It's a 35-ton light with like really light armor. I mean, barely more armor than a Stinger mounts. It's got 72 points. That's only a half a ton more than what a Stinger mounts in armor. And that is really, really light armor. And the reason why it's such light armor is it is mounting a Gauss cannon. They mean Gauss rifle. In this book, it's actually listed as a Gauss cannon. Yay, fun. And 2 tons of ammo. It has no XL engine. It thankfully does have Indo steel. But if it had an XL engine, it could at least have more weight for armor. Or it could, well, I guess it could mount an XL engine because, I know you can. 7 criticals on the side torso with the Gauss rifle. You can slap an XL engine and have 2, yeah, you can easily do that. It could have mounted an XL engine and saved itself 3.5 tons for armor. Or could have gone faster, because as it is, it's a 5.80. And you could have also used those 3.5 tons for a ton of armor and 5 jump jets to allow it to reposition better. As it is, this thing is a big gun on a little mech without anything around it to make it actually good. It's not crap, it's just really kind of how bad you expect some Inner Sphere mechs to be. It's banal. It could be better. Thankfully, it's not worse. And it's just barely not worse. I mean, seriously, this thing is borderline on being crap. I think there's a lot of people out there that probably think it is crap, but Gauss rifles are just amazing weapons, and for the Inner Sphere, they're one of the few things that can launch itself across the entire battlefield and possibly get you a headshot, or at least scare the heck out of anything it fires at. So, I have to put it in banal. It's not better than that. It's really close to being worse, though. Then we come to the last of the light mechs. We come to the SDR 9K Venom. Yes, it's just using the spider numbers because all this thing is a heavier spider. And I mean, like, not by a huge amount either. But it has a serious flaw. It's an 812-8 mech with XL engine, and it mounts 4 medium pulse lasers. I'm not gonna knock those. I honestly think that, again, they're one of those weapons that has a certain bracket that it's okay in, but in many ways the basic medium is just as good and weighs half the weight, less heat. Medium pulses for the Inner Sphere are one of those weapons that has a zone. But, this thing has less armor than a Stinger. It has less armor than a Stinger. By only 1 point, but that's still less armor than a Stinger. That means it's fragile, it's fast, it's fragile, it has a lot of guns. But its real flaw is it only has 12 single heat sinks. Medium pulse lasers do 4 points of heat per shot. That means you can't even fire all four medium pulses without generating heat. And you sure as heck are not jumping without generating heat. If this thing mounted doubles, it would be actually a really good mech. It would actually be able to handle its heat precisely. It would have 24 points of sinking for 16 weapon plus 8 movement, and it'd be perfect. But as it mounts single heat sinks, it's a hateful, awful, garbage design. I can't call it dreadful, although I'm really tempted. But this thing just falls down on so many fronts. Because you jump in, you fire, and you better jump out, because next turn, if you fired more than one laser, if you fired 3 or more lasers, you are cooking, you are having bad targeting, you're having movement issues. This thing jumps in, jumps out, jumps in, jumps out. That's fine. But that means you really are having effectively half turns with this mech. Every other turn, you're not fighting. You're just dodging. That's a little bit annoying. So I'm going to put this thing in. I don't know, I'm going to get flamed for this crap. I just don't like it. I want to, but this base variant, the 9K variant, and remember, this is only the 9K variant, is just not good. It's so hamstrung by single heat sinks that it just hurts. Okay, into the mediums. Some of these medium designs, because they were done with 3D graphics stuff, I mean, at least in the old book, are just so amazingly ugly. I mean, look at this. The first one, the Daimyo right here, is just... It's a freaking purple alien. It looks so stupid. The DMO 1K Daimyo. 5.8 speed on a 40-tonner. Okay. Has no XL engine. Okay, more survivable, I guess. 134 points of armor. We're actually looking at a pretty solid amount of armor on this thing. ERPPC, 2 medium lasers, and a streak SRM6. A basic SRM6. Streak SRMs do not exist for the Inner Sphere beyond the 2 rack at this time period. It has 11 double heat sinks. Okay. If it walks, fires the 2 mediums in the air PPC, it doesn't generate any heat. So the SRM6 rack is always excess heat. You can flip on things on and off. It's not terrible. You can turn the ERPPC off when you're close and do just your close range weapons. It's not terrible. It's not super fast. It has no scout tech at all on it, so it's kind of just a combat machine. And because of that, it's really just banal. I mean, this mech is not super special. I mean, it's not bad. It's not good. It's just lukewarm. Next up, WTC-4M Watchman. This mech has like no advanced tech on it at all, except for case. And I'm fairly certain that was the point of this design. If you read the book, it's designed to be a mech they're throwing into like militia units and things that are guarding their borders, the Inner Sphere houses are, after they've moved all their frontline and elite pilots to deal with the clans. So this is just kind of like a cheap, garbagey mech designed to fill the ranks for house militias and border patrol units and that kind of stuff. So it makes sense that it's cheap, cheap, cheap. It's not terrible. It's not great. It's got a large laser, 2 machine guns, 2 medium lasers, and it moves 585, 136 points of armor. It's overall, I mean, I can't. Again, the big hampering thing is the single heat sinks on it. But this mech is it's there. It actually, for like, you know, as a game master, it's a wonderful mech to use because it really truly represents basic militia units. It's what you could find when you're like, you know, attacking a planet or whatever. It's like, oh no, a bunch of these militia came out to fight us and they have like Watchmen. It makes sense. So it's pretty banal. Next up, the KIM-2 Komodo. Sorry. This is actually a shockingly good mech. It's a bit light in the armor, only 120 points. It moves 585. It has 14 doubles and it mounts 10 Inner Sphere medium lasers. 10 Inner Sphere medium lasers produce 30 heat when you alpha strike. It can cool 28 points of heat. It's almost able to cool everything it fires. And the reason why it really can't is because it has 2 AMS systems. And attack. So, I mean, other than the fact that all the weapons are in the arms again, I think this is a pretty awesome mech. I don't think it's sublime. It's really, really close to sublime, but it's not quite there. It's an awesome mech, though. And no one should feel bad about running it because it's good. It's really good. I mean, I actually think in some ways it is actually a better mech than the Nova from the clans. Mainly because this thing can actually take advantage of most all of its arsenal almost all the time. Unlike the Nova, which can generally use half its arsenal all the time, or all of its arsenal half the time. So I think this one's slightly better. It has less range than, of course, the Clan ER mediums, but hey, you know what? That works. And there are some variants of this thing. Again, I'm not sure we be talking about variants, but there are some variants that mount C3 Slave and C3 Masters. So you can actually have an entire lance of just Komodos that are all connected together, and it gets really disgusting. Next up, the SN-1V Snake. I think this is a Capellan design if my memory serves. And, yeah, on Capella. And I gotta say, I don't like this mech. I mean, it's lighter armored than the last one with it. It's only got 112 points of armor, so we're getting lower in armor. Same movement profile, 585, 11 doubles. And here's the funny thing. Here's a mech that doesn't need double heat sinks again. It's got 3 Streak 2 racks and an LB-10X. Thankfully, it does carry 2 tons of ammo, so you can have 1 ton of cluster, 1 ton of solid, or however you want to do it. But that's all it's carrying. It has no energy weapons, so if this thing is being used and you just run out of ammo, you're out of ammo. Yes, it's 3 Streak 2s, and you have 50 shells, so you can fire for, like, plenty of turns. But still, you could run out of ammo in a game, at which point it's just a run around, try to punch things, if it's not already dead. I don't think this is crap. It's really close. I think it's pretty banal again. It's lacking something. I mean, literally you could probably just make it up with a 1 or 2 backup medium lasers would make it a lot better. Especially since it's mounting double heat sinks. That's just a confusing mech. STH-1D Stealth. In general, I like this mech. It's a 711-7. That's good. It's got 152 points of armor. Hey, that thing mounts as much armor as a Shadowhawk, Griffin, or Wolverine do in 3025. And it weighs 10 tons less. Okay, you gotta like that. That's a little brawler right there. It's got 2 medium lasers, SRM-6 and a Streak 2 SRM, a Beagle Active Probe, and Mask. So, hey, it goes 711, 7, 711, 14, 7, so even better. I mean, overall, this is a very solid little mech. I think it's a good close-range scout brawler. It doesn't have an ECM to jam other people, which would be really useful. But it does have the Beagle Active Probe to scan for other people, so that's also really good. I mean, this thing is actually an awesome little mech. I mean, he's got 10 doubles. I can't find a real flaw with this mech. I mean, I almost want to say Sublime. You know what? I am. I'm going to say this is our first Sublime medium because it's got the durability of a Wolverine from 3025. Actually, better damage output than a Wolverine from 3025. It's a heck of a lot faster, and it can handle it. Yeah, no, this is a Sublime mech. We're going to put this on a Sublime. I've just tucked myself into it. It's a much better mech. Next up, the HUR-W0R4L Huron Warrior. Save me from these numbering systems. Here's a mech that, once again, it lets me down at a fundamental level. It's a 580, okay, XL engine. I accept it. Lots of mechs have XL engines at this point in time. 160 points of armor. Okay, that's not bad. It weighs 50 tons. Okay, I can accept this. Has a Gauss rifle. Okay, that's a big plus. Has an ER large laser. Hey, that weapon matches pretty well with the Gauss rifle. I like it. It's got a medium pulse laser. I can give or take. It has 11 single heat sinks. Which means, once again, it can't even fire both of its primary weapons and move without generating heat. In this era, where 10 doubles on this thing would have made it more than heat efficient, it mounts 11 singles. So it wastes a ton and is stupid. It also looks kind of dumb because, I mean, it's like got a massive target catching area above its head. I know in the fluff that's for like some like sort of sensors or whatever. I don't care. That looks like a giant catcher's mitt designed to hold and catch bullets. I think this is... I really want to rate this thing higher, but I can't rate it higher than crap because of the lack of weapons. It just bugs me. It really bugs me in this time period. Anything in 3055 or later that generates more than 10 points of heat, you should do doubles. I mean, this should just be a flat-out rule for designing a mech. It's just... When you see something without doubles, you have to be asking yourself, why? I mean, I know they make intentionally bad mechs on purpose, but the technology level at this point in time should not be making stupidly intentionally bad mechs. Although I've read some in some places that just get silly, like there's the Marauder 2 version in the basic 3050 book that has case in the torso without ammo, and the ammo torso with no case, so... Yay! Okay. Next up is the NG4S Nightsky. I forgot about this one for a second. Here's another mech with a hatchet. Yeah. I like hatchets a lot. The sad part is my book right here is actually missing the Nightsky's page. So despite lacking the page in my book, I've actually been able to dig up the Nightsky's information again. I mean, I could have pulled up a record sheet or whatever, but I went to Sarna if you've ever been there. I'm hoping you've been there. This is Battletech. And it's a solid mech. We're talking a 50-ton mech with 12 double heat sinks, a 696 movement profile. That's good. That's good. And a hatchet. A large pulse laser, 2 medium pulse lasers, a small pulse laser. Okay, so there is a downside to it. It's carrying a small pulse laser. I know the thing is themey, all pulses. Just give it a basic medium over the small pulse, please. And, I mean, overall, it's a pretty solid mech. I like it. I like hatchet mechs. I mean, so this thing has to go in the awesome category, just in general. And I literally would love to put it in Sublime, but I can't because it has a small pulse laser. And plain and simple, by including that weapon, I am pretty much just knocking a mech down a tier for having a stupid weapon. So... The Nightsky goes in awesome because it should be Sublime, but it mounts one small pulse laser, which in my opinion is bad enough to knock it down. Next up, the APL-1M Apollo. It's the mini Archer. I mean, literally, it's the mini Archer. This thing mounts 2 LRM-15s with Artemis 4 and 2 small pulse lasers. Seriously, why? This is a long-range support mech. It does not need 2 small pulse lasers. There will be 2 medium lasers, which would be far more effective as defense weapons than 2 small pulse lasers. I mean, this is a long-range mech. If you're afraid of infantry, you're in the wrong part of the battlefield. Plain and simple. This thing does not need small pulses. It's... No, bad mech. I mean, it's got 10 doubles, so yay for the 215s with Artemis 4. It's got plenty of ammo for them. I mean, this should be another, probably a Sublime mech, maybe an Awesome mech. I mean, it's a great pair. I mean, this thing got a ton of armor too. 184 points of armor. I mean, a lot of Archers mount like 208, so this thing's just barely below an Archer. This is only a medium. It's 50 tons. And Archers are what, 70, I think, off the top of my head? My brain just blanked out on that really sudden. But seriously, this is a good mech. It should be probably Sublime, but I can't put it there because it has small pulses in the place of competent real weapons like medium pulse lasers. Still, it pairs up amazingly well with Archers or longbows or any other like long-range support mech. It comes in as a lighter, same speed buddy to go along and fight. Next up, the GRM RPR-29 Grim Reaper. As I've said before, these numbers, the numerical designators in this book are driving me batty. I mean, that thing has 8 characters to say Grim Reaper, and Grim Reaper is only 2 characters longer overall. Your freaking stupid numbering system is not an advantage over calling the mech by its name. Just calling it the Grim Reaper 29 is almost as effective as calling it the 29. So, whatever. Go figure. This thing is a 55-ton, 580 mech with an XL engine, 185 points of armor, so it's got some durability to it, with a eclectic selection of weapons. LRM-20, ER large laser, AMS, medium pulse laser, SRM-6. 2 long-range, 2 short-range weapons. That's pretty good in some ways. It can fight both styles. 10 double heat sinks, so it can dissipate the heat from either set. You can run and fire all of your long-range weaponry, or run and fire all of your close-range weaponry and throw in the ER large laser for a little bit of overheating, then you can cool off later on. So, in general, this mech is a pretty solid mech. I think it actually looks pretty cool, too. And, yeah, I like this mech overall. Do I think it's sublime? Yeah, no, I'm thinking it's just awesome. If it had 585, I think I'd probably put it in the sublime category for the extra little bit of mobility on it. But as it is, it's a pretty solid mech. I mean, 55-tonners are in general one of the best mechs in the game. Although 50-tonners are actually probably the best category, 55-tonners are pretty solid, good mechs. They're better than 60-tonners most of the time. Next is the TR1 Wraith. Hey, look at that. The numerical designator went the opposite way on this mech. It got hyper short. I mean, to the point where it doesn't even have a W in it. It's just a TR1 Wraith. Fine. Another 55-tonner. 7117. That's an improvement. Definitely has an XL engine because you need that. That thing's got a 385 rated engine, so it is big. 161 points of armor, so it's a little bit lighter. But it mounts a large pulse, 2 medium pulses, and all those jump jets. 10 double heat sinks. It does heat up a little bit when you're jumping all the time, but it's got those pulse weapons. You can jump in the right place to get the best range bracketing and just put damage home. So it's really good. It's really good. This mech is probably, yeah, you know what? It's sublime. It's one of my favorite mechs of all time, actually. I like the model. I like the weapons. I like the way it moves. It's good. It's just really, really good. The only thing it's lacking is a weapon in the center torso or whatever, so it doesn't lose everything if it loses an arm. But I'm going to leave it in the sublime category. Next up is the heavy category, which we have the most mechs in there. Actually, 11 heavy mechs. It's interesting. First up is the ANV-3M Anvil. Okay. This is another good mech. It's a Indo-Steel mech with a 583. It's a weird movement profile. No XL engine, so it's a tank. 152 points of armor. So we're only talking about having the armor of a 3025 era Wolverine on a 60-ton mech. with the same kind of movement profile as some, like one of the Shadowhawks that has the 583 movement profile also. But this thing mounts 2 large pulses, 2 medium lasers, and a Guardian ECM suite. No weapons in the arms, all the ones are in the torsos, or the head. The 2 large pulses are the side torsos, you got the mediums in the head and the center torso. So it's kind of a zombie mech. I mean, it fights until it's down fully, and it's with no actual engine, it just fights on and on and on and on. So this is a really solid mech. I like this mech a lot. I think the Anvil's got to go qualifying as a Sublime. Also, 12 double heat sinks to handle the heat. Thank you very much. Next up, the TMP-3M Tempest. 65 tons. We didn't spend a lot of time in the 60 tons. 65 tons. 260 XL engine for a 464 mech. Means the XL is only saving like 6 or 7 tons of weight at this point in time. It does have Indo Steel also, so it's cutting some weight out right there as well, so that's good. This thing's got 208 points of armor, so it's got like Archer level of armor from the 325 era. It mounts a Gauss rifle, a large pulse laser. That's the pulse I actually like from the Inner Sphere. That's the large pulse of the pulse I like in the Inner Sphere. Because it's got some distance, it matches up really well with medium lasers because it's got 9 hex range, and it's got that little extra oomph. It also does, a little bit more damage than the basic large laser. It does 9 points. It's that little bit more annoying level of damage. So I like that. That's actually good. So it's got 3 medium lasers and SRM6. So look at this thing actually having a really solid 9 hex or less range bracket for fighting. With that Gauss rifle in there as well. So that's actually really good loadouts. It's got 11 double heat sinks. I'm doing the math in my head. 10 plus 9 plus 1, that's 20. Plus the SRM6. So, we're doing a bit more. We're overheating a little bit. Just a little bit. Unless we jump. But it can manage its heat well enough. I mean, I think with the XL engine of that thing, I have to rate it as only awesome. Because, if this thing didn't have the Gauss rifle and it mounted like a lighter autocannon, like an LB-10, it probably wouldn't need the XL engine. And it could fiddle some stuff around or whatever, like maybe drop out the SRM6, which doesn't have the heat management for anyways. And it'd be a really good mech still. So I think the XL is a little bit of a cost on this one. The image does look a bit doofy because it's got this beehive, like, helmety thing going on, which is just weird. I don't get it. It's kind of ugly. The rest of the mech actually looks pretty good, except for the beehive helmet it's wearing. The DAI-01 Daikyu. Daikyu means big bow. Yay! Which kind of actually sums this thing up pretty well. This thing's actually a pretty good long-range sniper mech for being a 70-tonner. It has a 350 XL engine, so we're actually saving a significant amount of mass with that engine this time. It moves at 5'8", has 11 double heat sinks. Now it's an ERPPC. Okay, 11 doubles in the ERPPC if you want 6 points of heat sparing right now. Or, sorry, 7. So we're really running the border. 2 AC5 Ultras. Okay, that's not terrible. That's 4 more points of heat. LRM5 rack. And a medium laser. Like I said, sniper. You keep it back and you fire all 4 of those main ones and just turn the medium off and ignore it. And fire the other guns out there. And it's not bad at all. It's another one of those funny ones, though. There's a significant mistake in the technical readout. It lists both AC5 Ultras as being in the right arm, and with critical slots of 5, it has hands. Well, that can't be possible. You actually look at the record sheet, and it actually has 1 AC5 in each arm, and the PPC is mirrored to 1 AC5 in the right arm, I do believe. No, left arm. So, it's a little bit silly right there. It's just, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. They screwed that one up in the technical readout. 192 points of armor, so it's a little bit lower than an archer and weighing the same weight, but it actually pairs up pretty well with archers or anything else as a long-range mech. Although it's direct fire weaponry, it still pairs up pretty well. I like it. I think it's going to go in the awesome category, not anything better than that. It also looks pretty cool. It looks pretty cool. That's a big bonus. Next up, the GAL-1 GLS Gallowglas. What a name. This mech just looks like a basic, fightery dude with a gun in its arm. It's kind of basic looking, but kind of cool at the same time. This thing mounts an ERPPC, 2 large lasers, 2 medium pulse lasers, and a small laser. It has 18 double heat sinks. It needs it. That's a lot of heat right there on those weapons. But if you think about it, You fire the ERPPC and 2 large lasers, you're generating 33 points of heat. That means you can actually jump with this thing and fire the 3 big guns and you're okay, because it can only jump 3 hexes. It's a 4.63. No XL engine. Okay, see? This is a good combo. This is a solid, durable mech with some interesting combinations. You just turn off the ERPPC when you close in and fire those medium pulses in the small, and you got something going on here. I like this mech quite a bit. There's a variant, again, shouldn't be talking about variants. There's a variant with the Gallowglas rifle, I do believe, if I'm remembering right. But overall, this is a solid mech. I mean, I like it a lot. For another 70-tonner, you know what? No, this thing is going to go up in Sublime. I mean, aside from the fact that it overheats a little bit if you Alpha Strike, it's amazingly good mech. I mean, it's durable. It's durable. It's kind of a zombie-ish mech in some ways. It's got all those laser weapons, and it's just good. No ammo explosions. It has the heat to handle most everything on there. It's a really good mech. I like it. I like it a lot. It's also one of the rare non-XL engines in this book. Next up, the HRCLS 9001. Just kidding, just 9,000. Hercules. 350XL with a 5.8 speed. So again, we're cutting out about 14, 15 tons or something like that on the engine, which is really a lot of weight we're saving. 197 points of armor, which is a weird number, so that means it mounts ferrofibrous. And this is a very typical loadout, though. I've seen this on a lot of mechs. It mounts an ERPPC with an LB-10X. It's got Streak SRM2s, a medium pulse laser, and then, if that wasn't weird enough, to kick you in the nuts, it's got 2 small pulses in the rear. I mean, I guess technically, small pulses in the rear are slightly better, because usually something in the rear is trying to get like point blank on your butt, so they can kick you or punch you in your rear armor after shooting you there. It doesn't kick you in the rear armor unless you've fallen down, but, you know, whatever. Still, it's a weird mech. It's got 12 double heat sinks, so it can handle most of the heat it generates. I'm going to put it banal. It's such a basic, especially with the small pulses, it's such a basic pairing of guns. LB-10 ERPPC. LB-10 ERPPC, or you see those paired up so often. Just weird to me. Coffee. Next up, the THR-1L Thunder. This may be one of my absolute pure favorite mechs in the game. This is a Capellan design. It's got a 350XL engine on a 70-ton chassis. It's a 5.80 with 11 double heat sinks. 216 points of armor, which means so far it's the most durable 70-tonner we've seen. And it mounts a glorious AC-20 with 3 tons of ammo, an LRM-5, which is just literally added as an afterthought. That's the one weapon on this thing that doesn't really belong. And 3 torso-mounted medium pulse lasers. This thing is a monster. It's a 5.8 with an AC-20. It can get in range to use that gun. I love it. I love this mech. I always have. The Thunder, there are so many Capellan designs, especially starting in the later years, that just become really amazingly good. Probably because Capella can't produce as many battle mechs, it makes sure its mechs are better than average. This mech is a fantastic mech. It looks downright silly with essentially looks like a semi-truck grill in the middle of its face. Very funny. But it's a great mech. I mean, it's a great mech. The BN-DR-01A Bandersnatch. This mech is got those really weird models. It's a pretty cool looking mech overall. The drawing is just strange, especially the shoulder mounts and the arms are completely different. It's still, it's got 10 double heat sinks, and that's what this thing's gonna be let down. Because it has a load of weapons right here. It's a 4.60 mech with a 300 XL engine in it. This thing mounts 2 LB-10Xs, each with 2 tons of ammo. It's got 6 medium lasers, 2 of which are rear mounted, and 3 LRM-5s. It's a crazy mech. I mean, the great thing is, honestly, this thing is pretty heat effective even with the 10 singles, or 10 doubles. Not singles, if this thing had singles, it'd be terrible. The 10 doubles, Because you can fire all the medium lasers for it and the LB-10Xs and you're fine. Or you can fire the LB-10Xs and the LRM-5s and you're way fine. I mean, literally this thing is pretty heat efficient because you're not going to be firing everything at the same time, for the most part. And its only downside is only having 176 points of armor. It's a little bit light running armor for a 75-ton mech. But beyond that, it's actually really good. I mean, I can't quite put it in Sublime because of the lightness of the armor with that XL engine, but I think I'm going to put it in the awesome category because, in general, it's a pretty awesome mech. I mean, it's hard to say no to that thing. It's just all around good. And in many ways, better than the combination of LRM or LB-10 and the PPC because it doesn't have the heat issues. FLC-8R Falconer. One of the things I'm going to say is the heavy mechs in this book are really good in general. I mean, really good in general. This is a 585 with a 375 XL engine on a 75-tonner. We're cutting out almost 20 tons of engine weight because that thing is such a huge engine. 192 points of armor, so it's got good armor. It mounts Indosteel. It has an ERPPC and a Gauss rifle and 4 medium lasers. It only can handle 20 heat, but that's fine because you're firing either the ERPPC and the Gauss rifle or the Gauss rifle and the medium lasers. I mean, that's your choice, more or less. I mean, you can either turn off the mediums or the ERPPC because that Gauss rifle's got 16 rounds of firing. You're going to fire for 16 rounds until you're out of ammo. That's how that thing's going to go. It moves fantastically. It's good enough armored. And the model looks pretty cool, too. A little, like, spaceship that's hunched over on legs. It's pretty cool. This is... Should I put up in Sublime? I feel like I should. It's just such a good all-arounder FedCom mech. Seriously good. The PTR-4D Penetrator. One of the most inappropriate mechs in the book. 300 standard engine. Okay. 464 with 12 double heat sinks. 208 points of armor. That's not that bad, honestly. I mean, it's not the best, but at 75 tons, it's still not bad. Where this thing goes crazy is it's got a little bit too much guns for the heat sinks it has. Has 2 ER large lasers and 6 medium pulse lasers in an AMS system. Okay. This thing is missing Indosteel. And that Indosteel in this thing could be the answer to its problems. Because by not having Indosteel, it's missing those 3 heat sinks, 3x double heat sinks, which would allow it to fully move and fire either its ERs or its mediums. It's so close to right there. I mean, it's going in the awesome category, but it's so close to Sublime, and it's lacking just the Indosteel. I mean, it's got the durability of not having an XL engine. It's got good armor anyways, and it's got good weapon loadout, but it's missing that extra little heat safety level. The AMS is just an afterthought in my opinion. They're useful, but I won't say yay or nay to them. They're a weapon I just consider, whatever, they're fine. MDG-1A Rakshasa is the Inner Sphere's attempt to recreate a Timberwolf. They don't quite get there. It's a 375 XL, 580 movement profile. Okay, that keeps it the same as a Timberwolf. Indosteel, 215 points of armor, not bad. 2 LRM-10 racks, so half the missiles of a Clanner, which makes sense because they weigh the same as a Clanner's. The 10 rack is the equivalent of a 20 rack for the Clan, so Clan's got a big bonus on weight for the LRM launchers. Both of them have Artemis 4. Okay, that's fine. Then it has 2 ER large lasers, 2 medium lasers, and a medium pulse. It's honestly not a bad mech at all, especially since it has 15 double heat sinks. It can sort of manage its heat. It's kind of like it really is a lesser Timberwolf, because it just doesn't have the oomph of the Clan weapons. The ER larges don't have the range. The LRMs are half the value. But it's a really good attempt. I mean, I give the Inner Sphere props for getting pretty close to get it to a Timberwolf with the Rakshasa. I'm going to rate this as an awesome mech. I don't think it's sublime, but I like it. I've always liked the model, because it really is an Inner Sphere Timberwolf. Blockier, but hey, whatever. Go to town. WRDG-02FC Wardog. Remember I said there were 2 weapons I really hated in this book? And we've talked about the first one a lot, the small pulse laser. This mech mounts a small pulse laser, but it's also got the other insultingly awful weapon in the book. It has 2 Streak SRM-2 one-shots. Which means that each of them weighs a half a ton more than the basic Streak SRM-2 launcher. Which would be enough if you add both those halves together to get 1 ton of ammo for a normal pair of Streak SRM-2 launchers. But because they're one-shots, I feel insulted by looking at this mech. It's an insult. This mech is insulting. It's... Why? Why would you ever... One-shot missile launchers are true garbage. I mean, half a ton to get a single shot. No. If they had been base launcher weight, I would accept them. But the fact they cost an extra half a ton for a once per game use, they're true trash. Especially in later areas when we get things like improved one-shot launchers, but more importantly, rocket launchers. One-shot Streak SRM-2s weigh 2 tons apiece. For 4 points of damage, 1 time each in the game. They are an insult to everything in Battletech. I don't even care what the rest of this mech has. I'm angry at it. And that's the last of our heavies. Now we're into the assaults. First up on the assaults is the PPR-5S Salamander. Again, thank you for that numerical designator that doesn't seem to say Salamander at all. This is a 80-tonner that moves 4.6 with a 320 XL engine. It's got 10 double heat sinks and 247 points of armor, so it's got good armor. It mounts 3 LRM-20 racks, 2 medium lasers, and enough ammo per rack to fire for 18 turns. It's a really good mech. It's a really good mech. I mean, 18 turns of firing those LRM-20 launchers and you're generating enough heat that you're going to be covered by those 10 double heat sinks, you are in a solid freaking mech. I mean, I guess they could have found some way to squeeze out maybe some Artemis 4 form, but keeping the mediums around as backup weapons is really good, so I like it. It's a really good mech. And this sucker is going to go in the Sublime category. The GUN-1 ERD Gunslinger. Hey, the numerical designator says gun, and it's a gunslinger. Okay, 255 XL engine. So we're only saving like 6.5 tons of weight. It's a little bit bad. It's a 352. I'm honestly not a fan of jump jets on assault mechs because they weigh 2 tons apiece. And seriously, if that thing didn't have an XL engine, if we didn't have jump jets, we'd be in pretty much the same boat weight-wise, wouldn't we? Yeah, we would. There is no need for the XL if you take the jump jets off this thing, making it a lot more survivable. It's got 248 points of armor, so only a fraction more than the Salamander had, which implies to me the Salamander must have had ferrofibrous armor. Or there's just a mathematical mistake somewhere in these books. And I'm willing to bet there's probably mathematical mistakes somewhere in these books. That's the way these things, these early TROs tend to have mathematical mistakes in them. Okay, the good aspect of the Gunslinger is it really is a gunslinger. It mounts 2 Gauss rifles. Yeah, okay. And we've got 4 medium lasers at the front and 2 medium pulse lasers at the rear. Hey, look at this. If those 2 medium pulse lasers in the rear were downgraded to mediums, and maybe not in the rear, and we dropped at the jump jets, we've got 6 of 6.5 tons. Hey, we're really, really close to not needing an XL engine. I mean, it's got to go in the awesome category, even though in some ways I feel it's probably just banal, because it misses the mark on just a few little tick boxes. Few boxes it misses the arc on. It's so weird to me. Oh, and weirdly it has an ECM, which is good, but weirdly it has a Beagle active probe. And there we go. There's another 1.5 tons this thing probably doesn't need that it could have done to swap out the XL into a basic engine. Like I said, it's hard to put anything with 2 Gauss rifles though below awesome, because it's 2 Gauss rifles. But I'm so torn because it feels like this mech should only be banal because it's missing there's these tiny little details they're putting that makes it just like it's missing true greatness. So let's just move on. ALB3U Albatross. I love this mech. I love the way it looks. It's a bonkers mech. It's a 4.6 380 XL engine, so we're saving like 20 and a half tons out of this thing, so that's an XL's worth it there. It's got only 208 points of armor for a 95-ton machine, so this thing has got low armor for its weight class. But it's got an eclectic selection of weapons. LB-10X, ER large laser, LRM-15, SRM-6, large pulse, and 2 medium lasers. 14 double heat sinks. It can kind of choose and select how it wants to fire its weapons. She's got long-range guns and short-range weapons, and you got some weapons that fire in both brackets. This thing's real true lack is just its lack of armor. I mean, that's its only thing that's really keeping it from being a sublime mech. And that XL engine. I mean, again, this is a mech that feels like it just falls short in a few categories. But if it didn't have the XL engine, it would not be moving at 4.6 speed. It would not be a 95-tonner traipsing across the battlefield with normal heavies. So you gotta sacrifice something. Okay, next to the MRV2 Cerberus. This is a mech with another 95-tonner. It's got a 380 XL engine on it. Moves at 4.6. 12 double heat sinks. 197 points of armor. Again, light on the armor. Light on the armor. But we mount 2 Gauss rifles again. 4 medium pulse lasers, an AMS, and some machine guns. I find this thing is almost like the Gunslinger in the fact that it's missing some aspects to it. It's a speedy Gauss rifle mech, but do you need that much speed with Gauss rifles? I'm not convinced you do. Unless you have no armor. But this thing has almost no armor for an assault mech that weighs 95 tons, so maybe it does need the speed. It's a weird mech. I'm having trouble placing my brain. I've got to put it in awesome category because it has 2 Gauss rifles. And even at the Inner Sphere, 2 Gauss rifles is just a scary, scary thing to go up against. The coffee's getting a little bit cold. NG C3A Naginata. This is a 285 standard engine, 95 tonner. We've got a lot of 95 tonners. 3.5 with 15 double heat sinks, 240 points of armor, so we're doing good on armor again. We're getting back into the Salamander zone. Remember, the Salamander weighs 15 tons less. Now keep that one in mind. This thing has a C3 computer. This is the first C3 computer we've had mentioned in this whole book. Not even any slave units in the base variants down the pages, which is really, really weird. It's got 3 LRM-15 racks, all of them with Artemis 4. Okay, that's fine. The Salamander has 320 racks, but no C3 computer. C3 computers, remember, weigh 5 tons, so they're a good chunk of weight. It also has an ERPPC to pair up with the LRM-15s, which is why it has that 15 double heat sinks. I said the Salamander was sublime. This has got our first C3 computer in the entire book. And if you've watched my video, I'll put a card up in the corner, about using C3, you'll see why C3 is amazingly powerful. So this thing has got to go in the sublime category. It is the perfect mech to control a bunch of slaves, like those Komodos I talked about earlier, the one variant that has the slaves in it, to get up there point blank range. So this thing can just be pelting out massive damage from long distance without having the 2 hit penalties. It's a sublime mech. It's a great. Those C3 computers are amazing. Next up is my absolute pure favorite mech in the book. I mean, I think I may have said that already before about something else, but this mech right here is just glorious. It's our first 100-tonner. It's the BRZ A3 Berserker. You know why I love this mech. It's a 4.6 100-ton assault mech with a 400 XL engine, so that thing's saving us 26 plus tons of space. And it has mask, so it can get up to 8 speed. It's a 100-ton assault mech moving up to 8 hexes with a hatchet. It's a hatchet on a 100-ton assault mech. See, I'm grinning? I'm grinning? Oh yeah, I love this mech. It's paired up with an ERPPC, a flamer in the head, which just makes it look like a dragon breathing fire, a pair of large pulse lasers, an AMS, and an ECM. It's even got an ECM! So you're point blank on something and you're cutting out their electronics and you're hitting them with their hatchet. 16 double heat sinks. Okay, not quite enough to cover that because I can tell you right there, 2 large pulse lasers and ERPPC are producing 35 points of heat. Okay. So you gotta lay off some stuff right now. And more or less the ERPPC fire when you're closing in, and then you turn it off when you get into range and you start using your pulse weapons. And you're fine. And you're hitting with a hatchet every freaking turn because once again, they did it right. The hatchet's in the right arm and nothing else is in there. So, hit them with that hatchet. Hit them good. I love this mech. It is absolutely going in the sublime category. Last up, very last mech in the book. The TITN-10M Grand Titan. I really like the way this looks because this thing looks like Optimus Prime. I'm really sad about this thing because it's a mess. It has 10 double heat sinks for an amount of weapons that is just insane. It's got an insane amount of weapons that it can never ever cover the heat for. It's also got a 400 XL engine because it moves 4.6, 289 points of armor. But again, 10 double heat sinks. Now listen to the weapon lid on this thing. 2 large pulse lasers. LRM-15 with Artemis 4. 2 SRM-6 with Artemis 4. 2 medium pulse lasers. 2 rear-mounted small pulse lasers. Remember what I said about those. This mech's already going down in categories. And then, to just really piss me off, it has 2 SRM-2 Streak 1 shots. I love the way this mech looks, and I find it fun as a game master to run because it's such a glitchy bastard. This thing is a terrible design in so many ways. It is our first 100-ton mech I think that I'm going to call crap. It is lacking so much in so many places. If you dropped those small pulse lasers and those SRM-2 one-shots, you could have added in 6 more double heat sinks. And that alone might have fixed this mech. That goes from 20 heat sinking to 32 heat sinking, and all of a sudden it would have become combat effective. But no, it mounts truly raw garbage weapons that are just insulting. So it's a crap mech. I hate to do it because I like the way it looks a lot. I love the model for it. The figure is amazing for this thing. Again, Catalyst, do this in plastic because it's gorgeous. And some of the variants this thing brings to the field in the future with like Word of Blake designs behind it are actually good. But this base variant, the 10M, is an insult of a mech. For a 100-ton mech, it is just crap. And that feels awful to end on, doesn't it? The fact that our 100-ton mech right there is just crap. But don't worry, there'll be another video from this book in not too long, because there's the whole section of clan mechs I haven't talked about that I'm not going to be talking about in this video. So, look forward to that. And you know what to do. Do the YouTube thing. Subscribe, like, comment. Do it. Thank you. This is SleeplessRonin saying, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave your opinions below, because I imagine there's a lot of opinions out there about what how I rank these mechs. And, you know, this is SleeplessRonin saying, we'll catch you in the future. Sayonara.